I was cutting into a piece of roast chicken when everything changed. We were gathered at my wife's parents' house for our usual Sunday dinner. The table was full, the atmosphere warm in that familiar way it always had been. My name is David. I'm a high school teacher, and I have been married to Lisa for 6 years. Her parents sat at the head of the table, her younger sister Rachel beside them, and Rachel's boyfriend Kyle across from me. It felt like any other evening, until Rachel suddenly stood up. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor, her hand trembling as she pointed directly at me. Her voice shook, but her words landed like thunder. I'm pregnant, and it's his. For a moment, no one moved, no one breathed. The room went completely silent. I slowly set my fork down, certain I had misheard her. What are you talking about? I'm 12 weeks pregnant, she continued, her voice cracking as tears began to fall. And it's yours. Tell them what you did. Lisa's face drained of color. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. David, tell me she's lying. She is lying, I said firmly, my chest tightening. I have never touched her. Not once. Rachel broke into louder sobs, collapsing into her mother's arms. I didn't want to say anything, she cried, but I can't keep lying. It happened in July, at the lake house. Everyone was asleep. He came to my room. The accusation hit me like a physical blow. I stared at her, stunned, searching her face for any sign of doubt, any hint that this was some kind of mistake. That never happened, I said, my voice low but steady. Stop lying, she screamed through tears. Lisa's father stood up abruptly, his chair slamming back. He looked at me with pure disgust, like I was something beneath him. Get out of my house. Lisa, I pleaded, turning to my wife. You know me. You know I would never. She wouldn't even look at me. Get out, she said quietly. That was the moment everything I had built over 7 years shattered. I met Lisa in a small bookstore in Portland. She had been browsing poetry, and I was searching for lesson plans for my class. We started talking, then went for coffee, and ended up sitting there for 3 hours like the rest of the world had disappeared. Her family had always been close-knit. Sunday dinners, holidays together, traditions that made you feel like you belonged to something solid. They welcomed me in the beginning, warm enough, kind enough. Rachel had been 19 when I first met her. Quiet, focused, studying nursing. There had never been anything strange between us. No tension, no inappropriate moments, nothing that could even be misunderstood. The weekend at the lake house in July was just like any other family gathering. We grilled food, played cards, laughed late into the night. I went to bed early both nights because I had work to prepare for. Nothing happened. Nothing even came close. And yet now, that single accusation had erased all of it. That night, I found myself alone in a cheap roadside motel, staring at the peeling paint on the walls. Lisa wouldn't let me come home. The only message she sent was short and cold. Don't contact me. Don't contact my family. I need time to think. I tried calling her anyway. She didn't answer. When I called her mother, she picked up only to unleash a storm of anger. She called me names I never imagined being associated with, her voice filled with fury and disgust. Before I could even explain, she hung up. Her father sent one message. If you know what's good for you, you'll disappear. I sat on the edge of the motel bed, my phone in my hand, my entire life collapsing around me. Rachel was lying. I knew that with every part of me. But the question that haunted me was why. Why would she do this? And why now? I opened my laptop and began going through everything I had. Every message, every call, every email. I searched for any connection between us that could be twisted or misunderstood. There was nothing. Not a single message exchanged between Rachel and me. Not one call. Not even an accidental interaction that could be taken out of context. Then I checked my location history from that weekend in July. Every movement was recorded. I had stayed in the main house almost the entire time, stepping out only twice. Once to the dock, once to the grocery store with Lisa. There was no moment where I had been alone with Rachel. No opportunity for what she described to have ever happened. I saved everything. Screenshots, logs, timestamps. Piece by piece, I built a record of the truth. Then my thoughts turned to Kyle. He had been sitting right next to Rachel during dinner, completely silent while she accused me. He hadn't defended her, hadn't reacted, hadn't said a single word. It didn't make sense. I looked him up online. His profile showed photos of him and Rachel smiling together, arms wrapped around each other, posted just days ago. There was no sign of conflict, no indication that their relationship had been shaken. If she had truly believed what she said, if she had truly been wronged, how could he sit there so calmly? As I scrolled further, I found an older post from August. Rachel had been tagged in it. "Big changes coming," it read. The comments were filled with excitement. Friends asking if she was getting engaged, sending congratulations. Rachel had replied to one of them. Not yet, something even better. Something better than an engagement. I stared at those words for a long time, a cold realization beginning to form in the back of my mind. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Stop digging. This is your only warning." I read it over and over again, my heart pounding. Fear crept in, but so did something stronger. Determination. I didn't reply. I simply took a screenshot and added it to the growing folder of evidence. The next morning, I made a decision that would define everything that came next. I called a lawyer. His name was Paul Hendris, a man experienced in cases like mine. I told him everything, from the dinner to the accusation, the messages, the evidence I'd gathered. He listened carefully, without interrupting. When I finished, there was a brief silence. "Do you have proof you were never alone with her?" he asked. "Yes. Location data, phone records. Nothing connects us." "That's a good start," he said calmly. "But that only proves your defense. What we need is something stronger." "What do you mean?" "We need proof that she's lying," he said. "A motive. Evidence that this accusation was planned." I swallowed hard. "How do I get that?" There was a pause on the line before he answered. "You don't," he said quietly. "I do." And in that moment, sitting alone in that small, quiet room with nothing left but the truth and the fight ahead of me, I realized something clearly. My life had been torn apart in a single evening, but I wasn't going to disappear. I was going to prove it. If she's lying, there's a reason, Paul had told me, and we're going to find it. I hired him that same day. The next week dragged by like a lifetime. There was no word from Lisa. Her entire family had blocked me. Calls, messages, everything. It was like I had been erased from their lives overnight. Then Paul called. I found something. His voice was steady, but there was an edge to it that made me sit up straight. "Rachel filed for state assistance 2 weeks before that dinner," he said. "Medical coverage for her pregnancy. And she listed the father as unknown." I blinked, trying to process it. "Unknown. Not you. Not anyone," Paul continued. "Which means she wasn't planning to name you originally." Something changed. I leaned forward, my heart pounding. "What changed?" "That's what we need to figure out," he said. "But there's more. Her boyfriend, Kyle, he's got a record. Sealed, but I got enough to see. Assault charge when he was younger. And his family is struggling financially. Single mother, several siblings. They're barely holding things together." I sat in silence for a moment, letting it sink in. "You think this is about money?" I asked. "I think it's about something," Paul replied. "And money is usually a good place to start." Before I could respond, another call came through. I glanced at the screen. St. Vincent's Hospital. "I have to take this," I told him, switching lines. "Mr. Carver," a calm, professional voice said. "This is Susan Park from St. Vincent's Hospital. We need you to come in as soon as possible. It's regarding Rachel." My chest tightened. "Is she okay?" "She's stable," the woman said. "But there's something you need to know. I can't discuss it over the phone. Please come alone." She gave me a time. 2 o'clock. I arrived early but sat in the parking lot for nearly 10 minutes, staring at the hospital entrance, trying to steady myself. My life had already been turned upside down. What else could possibly be waiting for me inside? When I finally walked in, Susan Park met me at the front desk. She looked exactly like her voice sounded, calm, composed, professional. She led me down a quiet hallway into a small office and closed the door behind us. "Mr. Carver," she began, sitting across from me, "Rachel listed you as the father of her child on her intake paperwork." "I know," I said quietly, "but it's not true." She studied my face for a moment, then nodded slightly. "As part of her prenatal care, we ran standard blood work," she continued. "There were some irregularities." My hands clenched together. "What kind of irregularities?" "She is O positive," Susan said. "She listed you as the father, so we needed your blood type for medical records." I may be negative. I replied immediately. She wrote it down, then looked back up at me. And your wife? A positive. She set her pen down. Mr. Carver, she said gently, the fetus has a B positive blood type. I frowned, trying to understand. What does that mean? It means, she said carefully, that it is genetically impossible for you to be the father. The words echoed in the room, heavy and undeniable. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Does Rachel know this? I asked. Not yet, Susan replied. But she will. We are required to inform her at her next appointment. When is that? Tomorrow morning. I left the hospital in a daze, the weight of the truth both relieving and overwhelming. I sat in my car and immediately called Paul. They have proof, I said. Medical proof. The blood types don't match. I can't be the father. That's exactly what we need, he replied. Can you get documentation? They're giving her the results tomorrow morning. She'll know by noon. Good, Paul said. Let her sit with it. Don't contact her. Don't contact your wife. Let them come to you. And if they don't, then we go to them, with everything. That night, sleep never came. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying everything, waiting for the moment the truth would finally break through the lies. The next day, just after 1 p.m, my phone rang. Lisa. I hesitated for a split second before answering. David. Her voice was fragile, shaking in a way I had never heard before. Yeah. Rachel just called me, she said. She's at the hospital. They told her. They said you can't be the father. Something about blood types. I closed my eyes, letting out a slow breath. I didn't say anything. I don't understand, Lisa continued. She was so sure. She had details, things about that weekend. What things? I asked quietly. She said you wore a gray shirt to bed, Lisa said. That you told her you weren't happy with me. That you were by the dock. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. I wore a white shirt, I said. I was never alone at the dock, and I have never been anything but happy with you. Silence filled the space between us. Why would she lie? Lisa whispered. I don't know, I said, but I want to find out. Another pause. My parents are panicking, she said. My dad thinks the hospital made a mistake. My mom says Rachel must have been confused about timing. There's no confusion, I said firmly. Lisa, she lied, and someone told her to. Ooh, I think it was Kyle. The silence that followed was heavier this time. Why? She finally asked. Because he's the father, I said, and they needed someone else to take the blame. That night, there was a knock on my motel door. When I opened it, Lisa stood there. She looked exhausted, eyes red, face pale, like she hadn't slept in days. Can I come in? She asked softly. I stepped aside. She walked in slowly and sat on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly together. I talked to Rachel, she said. I confronted her about the blood test. What did she say? Lisa's voice broke. She confessed. The word hung in the air. She said Kyle told her to do it. Lisa continued. Said his family would turn on him if they found out. They're very strict, and his mother already doesn't like Rachel. She panicked. I stared at the floor, anger and disbelief twisting together inside me. She said Kyle promised they would tell the truth later, Lisa added. After the baby was born, that it was just temporary, just to buy time. Temporary, I repeated slowly. I looked up at her, my voice heavy with everything I'd been holding in. She destroyed my life for something temporary. Tears streamed down her face. I know. I'm so sorry. Your entire family turned on me, I said. Your father threatened me. Your mother called me things I can't forget. I know, she whispered. I know, David. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said quietly. She looked down at her hands, unable to meet my eyes. What do you want me to say? She asked. I swallowed, the question cutting deeper than I expected. I want you to tell me, I said, that even for a second you believe me. She didn't answer, and that silence told me everything I needed to know. You should go, I said. David, please. Go. She stood slowly, hesitating at the door. For a moment, it looked like she wanted to say more, to reach for something that was already slipping away. Then she stopped. Rachel is telling my parents the truth tomorrow, she said quietly. And just like that, the truth was finally on its way. But it had come far too late to undo what had already been broken.